Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video, and it is once again that time of month where we rank the new meta units, and we do have quite a struggle ahead of us because now we have the forces metas coming in, not the typical light, fire, wind, water, dark, whatever the hell. So it's going to make placing these units a little bit more interesting. And you know what? I haven't put any thought into this, so we're going to go into it pretty much as I see fit and blind as crap. So, the first thing we have to do is, rank the free-to-play units, of which there are two this month, and one of them is Protector. So I wasn't quite sure how to rank free-to-play Chloe. Would it be fair to put her up against, all of the normal 5-star Summonal Protectors? Would it be better to put her in the free-to-play units? I didn't really know what to do. So I went and put her in the free-to-play units. But I made her her own little category, because so far, she's the only one. So it's like, I'm ranking her against herself. So obviously, Chloe is going here. Chloe, being down here at the bottom doesn't mean that she's crap, though. She's actually a pretty competent free-to-play stacking protector. Like, yeah, you don't have Milim, or you don't have Veldora, you don't have the Diablo, you don't have Shuna. She is a general stacker unit, right? She lowers defense by 25%, which hits everybody. She gives you 20 skill points, which the other protectors don't do. I mean, they buff your blues by a lot, which is, a lot more than 20 skill points. But it's something, right? She's kind of acting like a Wind Veldora protector, but instead of giving you a permanent alt buff, it's giving you defense down for 2 turns, or giving them defense down for 2 turns, and then she raises your cap by 20, which again, it's not the greatest, but again, she is a free-to-play unit, so you can't really expect too much out of her. You really can't, but I think that she's fairly good. So her being down here, below D doesn't actually mean anything. If we continue to get more basic free-to-play protector characters specifically, then I will probably end up making my own tier list for them, and I'll take her out of the normal battle unit one. But for now, she's going to exist on this list because she's free to play. The other free to play unit we have is Gobta. So Gobta is a water unit that doesn't buff water. So his first skill is Pierce Power and Wind Attack by 30%, and his second skill is the 50% skill point increase on blues. So, if you try and use him on a wind team that does not have Hinata, that does not have Pierce, it's kind of hard. Because you could use him with Cabby, you could use him with Veldora, and you would have the points to do so. But you'd be getting 30% wind attack, and that's it. Because there's no one wind specifically that gives Pierce. You'd have to bring Water Alice, Dark Xion, Raphael, Albus to actually give Pierce, to make the Pierce power buff actually matter. The wind attack is nice, and Trainee, the witch Trainee, she gives 15%, but she also rushes your ult, so it's like it does have a double whammy there. And then his, Wind 2.0 does run on blues, right? And blues don't get a lot of skill points. So using his second skill on that team is actually pretty useful. It's just that you're going to, probably end up getting more points than what you need, and you can't raise the cap at all. You're stuck at 100. You can give yourself an artificial raise of 15 to 30 when you use Gabiru, but that's it. You're not going to get 300 skill points in one turn. And, his first skill is expensive. So if you don't use his second skill, and you're trying to use his first skill, plus maybe an alt buff, plus Diablo's attack buff, plus the debuffs from Dino, that's just way too many points for the Wind 2.0 team to run on. You could very obviously put him with the new Diablo, which is where he's meant to be used with the Fount of Wisdom team, and then he really enhances Hinata's damage really, really, really well. But as far as general use on multiple teams, he kind of falters. He's, you can use the Pierce power on any team that has Pierce. That's cool, unless they already have Pierce power, and then it's kind of useless. You can use them on a wind team, because the 30% wind buff is still, I think, the strongest wind buff that we have right now. and then his blue buff, is a blue focused team. So I'm going to put him down into the B tier. I think he's better than these units, much better than these two. I don't think he eclipses these 3 units. I mean, Shinsha, you could argue that he is better than Shinsha. Sufia is giving alt gauge and the orb changing. She's healing orb and orb buffing for greens. You could argue that he would be better than, all 3 of these units, specifically on his own team, specifically on her team. But I don't think he's better than these 3 units. I just don't. He's not orb changing. He's buffing specific things where you need other units to proc that. I think it's just a little too specific, I guess, is where we'll put that. But I can see arguments that would put him up into A tier, and we could drop Shinsha down to B tier. But I'm gonna put him in B tier for now, and I will continue to use him, the coming days, weeks, and we'll see if my opinion changes next month of him. Moving on to Protector. Diablo lowers alt resistance, which previously only Raphael could do that, and now he did 50%, and now Diablo does 15 per stack, and you can get quite a few stacks in, which is going to add up to a lot more than 50 probably by the time you're done with the fight and you're ready to nuke. He raises your skill cap by 30, which is 10 less than Milim and Shuna, but 15 less than Veldora. So you do stack points a little bit more slowly because you're capped out earlier. And then he does the whole 100, 200, 300% on the blue orbs. But he is a very generic protector. So he's going to go up into S tier because you can use him on literally pretty much any team, right? Anyone who is alting, which is your priority, is going to benefit from his alt resistance down. It's not like Watermelon and Space Veldora where you're raising cap, you're getting more skill points, but you're only buffing one specific typing of attack, water or space, Shuna is also up in S tier because, anyone can pierce, and if you have the units, anyone can stun strike. So she is generic, albeit very specific. Diablo is generic and not specific because it doesn't really matter. And then if you're actually running his Fount of Wisdom team and you're against a water unit and you've hit all his conditions, you're doing 60% extra damage to water characters. And if you have a wind unit, you're doing another 30% because it's a type advantage, right? Or whatever, 1.3 times. You're doing a lot of extra damage to water units if you're Fount of Wisdom or... no, it's just that. So... And then, he does raise Primal Demon and Fount of Wisdom attack and defense stats up, which is he's the first unit to raise defense out of any of these protectors. So he belongs in S tier. Again, he is an EX protector though, so once we get a more EX units, maybe I'll make a separate step of lists for him for the EX characters so he can be compared against them. We'll see about that. But so for now, he's going up into S tier because he is quite useful in 99% of places. And now we move on to the battle units. Rimuru, Albus, and Hinata. And this is where things get a little tricky, right? Because if you're running Diablo's team, all 3 of these units against a water unit are fantastic. If you're not on Diablo's team, you're running them off meta, off category, force, whatever you want to call it, they become decent, but not extraordinary. So we're going to, take that generic bias into consideration and, compare them with and without Diablo, with and without the water unit. So let's start with the first unit, Rimuru. Physical attack buffer, physical attack debuffer, orb changer. Physical units are not the most, what's the word I'm looking for? There's not too many of them right now. Like there's Space 2.0, cool, Leon, the AoE characters. I actually didn't use them on that team yet, which maybe I should. But 80 skill points on that team is a lot. There's Fire, which we did use him on, which, it can do good things. And you have a little bit more skill points to play with because Toa is giving you 40. There is, Wind 1.0, there's Light 2.0. But really, there's not too many physical-focused teams, which means that his usefulness as a support buffer for just physical is kind of limited. But the Fount of Wisdom team is all physical, and he will assist them in doing big daddy damage, big mommy damage, depending on who's nuking. And then his orb changing is good. It is the same as Carrion. It is the same as, Water Shuna all the way up here. But Water Shuna is generic, right? Anybody can use an alt buff. Not everybody can use the physical buff because, Milim, not physical. Water Hinata, Dark Milim, not physical. They don't give two craps about his buff, alright? You're better off running Shuna in those scenarios. So, I'm going to put Rimuru up into S tier. And this is because if you want him to be max power wanked out, you gotta be very specific. You gotta fight a water unit, you gotta have Diablo. If you don't have that and you put him just on a water team, again, Water 2.0 being the latest water team is magic focused. He's not gonna help him. Water 1.0, you have Alice who's physical, and then you have Velzard and Raphael who are magic. So you can put him on other teams though. Like I said, you can put him on light, you can put him on fire, and he will help them do a lot of extra damage. In fact, he can replace Fire Shizu on the fire team, essentially. Where is she? She is Fire Shizu. Fire Shizu. Where are you? There you are. He can replace Fire Shizu on the fire team because, the EX board you're not getting for fire, you're getting it for a physical unit. The buff and the debuff really pair well with, the fire attack plus the pierce power that you can give to Violet. He can work well there. So he is not a terrible unit outside of his team, no doubt. But he is not godly, you can use pretty much anywhere kind of support. So he's going to go into S tier. Albus, unfortunately, is the worst of the three characters. She is Hot Snake Waifu, and I love her outfit. But guaranteed pierce is something that's not new, that most metas have received for the past 4 or 5 months, right? Because they've been trying to push our girl, the hero, out, and she is crit based. So they're doing things that have so much crit resistance, and then you need to give units pierce. So there have been a lot of units that give pierce lately. You've got Raphael, Space Shion gives herself pierce. There's Water Alice. There is Dark Shion. The number of units that are giving pierce are becoming quite numerous because of the power of the hero. So the fact that she gives pierce is a little redundant, I guess. You don't need it if you have other units to give pierce. Her real selling point is the 50% pierce resistance down, which, upon testing, is much less impactful than I would like it to be, right? 50% seems like a lot, and it does help you do extra damage, just not as much as you would like. It is not as good as the physical buff and physical resistance down, alright? It's just not. It's not as good as someone who's critting and has crit damage or crit resistance like the hero. In fact, I think it's actually equivalent. Her buff and debuff is equivalent to the hero's buff and debuff on, a neutral team, is how I've kind of likened it. Maybe it does a little tiny bit more, but not by much. The fact that she is single target, the fact that she is an EX all just like, this Rimuru, you can get that and you can make her do very, very good damage. When you put her with the entire Fount of Wisdom team, she can be a very reliable secondary nuker. But she is an orb changer and she is a support unit, right? Just like this Rimuru. And I think that she's worse than that. So I'm going to put her into the A tier, right? I don't like her support skill as much. Her orb changing is good, but also we have this man right here, Water Rimuru. So, if you need a green orb changer, Water Rimuru is free, albeit a little bit more hard to obtain now because of the trashy Corridor of Awakening. But the fact remains that he is there, and if you need an orb changer, that's there. And if you need someone to give pierce and you need an orb changer, you can just bring Raphael, who gives pierce and also the alt resistance down, and then you have Water Rimuru. She does combine those two kits, which is nice. It's what we wanted. But at the end of the day, once the entire meta is out, she is easily the weakest one. So, that leaves us with Hinata, our true DPS, wind DPS, which is something that we have been sorely lacking. Sorry, Diablo. Single target, EX alt, attack buff, special conversion, orb changing, her own personal alt buff. She is the definition of a self-supporting nuker. You know, just like Dark Millum right here. Dark Millum is a special converter. She has a massive support buff, and she also gives herself something. You know, she is essentially the Dark Millum of the Fount of Wisdom meta, which means I'm going to put her up here into Godly. Her attack buff hits everybody. Yeah, it hits everybody. Everyone can benefit from an attack buff. However, everybody is now cut down to Fount of Wisdom or Shizu's Will. And that is an unfortunate side effect of her having 60%. Because, you know, we had 45% with Light Millum, and that was already higher than the 40% we had with Space Rimuru. So, there is a caveat to her getting that massive increase in power, is that it's limited. Now, because she is the nuker, and ideally if you have her on the team, she is there to nuke, it doesn't really affect all that much. Because you're either running her on a Fount of Wisdom team, or you're running on her on a team where she is, again, the primary focus, and you want her to be as powerful. And since she is on those categories, it works out. So she is essentially a selfish unit for support, but it doesn't really matter because she's going to nuke everything in existence. And then she has the conversion, special blue. You know, we have Trainee, we have Frey, we have Sokka that do that. It's good. I mean, we know that Millum is good because she can convert alongside being the damage dealer. I do enjoy that aspect of units. So her being that, plus the support, plus her own personal alt buff, 40% is nothing to scoff at when you have the level of support that the Fount of Wisdom team has, alongside all the resistances down, and you've got type advantage against water units, and you're doing 60% extra damage anyways because you're against a water unit, and you have all of these factors contributing to her literally doing millions of damage in a Tempered Edge beatdown battle scenario. Millions of damage. Millions plural. We know what she does. Alright? Even if you don't use her on the Fount of Wisdom team, the fact that she can buff her attack, buff her alt, orb change, and then you can give her crit, you can give her, buffs in any way, shape, or form, alt buff, higher alt buff, it means that she can fit on almost any team that has the capacity to run an 80-point skill. It is very costly, yes. I will not deny that. All three of their skills are very costly. Again, this is also a reason why Albus is lower, because her 80 cost skill is as effective as a 55-point skill. And I just don't like it. But I think that she belongs in the godly tier as well, even if you're not fighting a water unit, even if you're not on the specific Font of Wisdom team. So that is the tier list update for this month. So godly, S, A tier, S tier, and then we've got B tier, and then the free-to-play new kind of slot for Chloe. So let me know what you guys think of this tier list. I know tier lists are always very subjective, not everyone is happy with them, but this is how I feel currently, and you know, there's always room for change next month. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you later.